Eggs. They are one of the most consumed foods on the planet. They are cheap. They are versatile. They are packed with protein and nutrients. And for decades, they have been at the center of one of the biggest debates in all of nutrition. Are eggs good for you, or are they bad for you? Do they raise your cholesterol, or do they not? Are they a superfood, or are they a heart attack waiting to happen? Well, today I am going to end this debate once and for all. Because the truth about eggs is not as simple as eggs are healthy or eggs are dangerous. The truth is far more nuanced than that. And it comes down to one critical factor that almost nobody is paying attention to: how you prepare them. How you cook your eggs determines whether they are a powerful cardiovascular protector or a cholesterol-spiking, artery-clogging bomb. And most people, I am willing to bet most of you watching this right now, are cooking your eggs in the single worst way possible for your heart. Let me explain everything from the beginning. And I need you to stay with me through the science, because once you understand the biochemistry of what happens to an egg depending on how it is cooked, you will never go back to your old habits. First, let us talk about what is actually inside an egg and why it matters for your heart. A large egg contains approximately 186 milligrams of cholesterol. All of that cholesterol is in the yolk. The egg white contains 0 cholesterol. Now, for decades, dietary cholesterol was considered public enemy number 1 for heart health. Doctors told patients to limit their egg consumption. The American Heart Association recommended no more than 300 milligrams of dietary cholesterol per day, and eggs, with their relatively high cholesterol content, were treated as a cardiovascular villain. But then the science evolved. Researchers discovered something important. For the majority of people, dietary cholesterol, the cholesterol you eat in food, has a surprisingly modest impact on blood cholesterol levels. Your liver produces the vast majority of the cholesterol in your blood, roughly 80% of it. When you eat more cholesterol, your liver compensates by producing less. When you eat less, your liver produces more. For most people, there is an internal thermostat that keeps blood cholesterol relatively stable, regardless of how many eggs you eat. This is why more recent dietary guidelines have removed the specific numerical cap on dietary cholesterol. It is why eggs have been partially rehabilitated in the world of nutrition science. But here is where so many people make a critical mistake. They hear eggs are fine now, and they assume that means they can eat eggs any way they want without consequences. And that is absolutely, categorically wrong. Because while the cholesterol inside the egg yolk may be relatively benign on its own, what you do to that cholesterol during cooking can transform it from a harmless molecule into one of the most damaging substances your cardiovascular system can encounter. Let me introduce you to a concept that will change how you think about cooking forever. It is called cholesterol oxidation, and it is the key to understanding why the way you cook eggs matters infinitely more than whether you eat them. When cholesterol is exposed to high heat in the presence of oxygen, a chemical reaction occurs. The cholesterol molecules undergo oxidation, a process where oxygen atoms attach to the cholesterol structure and create altered molecules called oxysterols, or cholesterol oxidation products. These oxysterols are profoundly different from regular, unoxidized cholesterol. Regular cholesterol is a normal, necessary molecule that your body uses to build cell membranes, produce hormones, manufacture vitamin D, and create bile acids for digestion. Your body knows how to handle regular cholesterol. It has been doing it for millions of years. But oxysterols are molecular monsters. They are toxic to the cells lining your blood vessels. They trigger intense inflammatory responses in your arterial walls. They accelerate the formation of foam cells, which are the fatty, cholesterol-laden immune cells that form the core of atherosclerotic plaques. They promote the oxidation of LDL cholesterol particles in your blood, converting normal LDL into the highly dangerous oxidized LDL that is the primary driver of plaque growth and arterial damage. They impair the function of your endothelium, the delicate inner lining of your arteries that produces nitric oxide and keeps your blood vessels flexible and healthy. And they promote cell death in vascular tissue, contributing to plaque instability and increasing the risk of plaque rupture, which is the immediate trigger for most heart attacks and strokes. In short, oxysterols are one of the most cardiovascular toxic substances you can put in your body, and the primary way that most people generate oxysterols in their diet is through high-heat cooking of cholesterol-rich foods, and there is no more common cholesterol-rich food in the modern diet than eggs. So now the critical question becomes, which cooking methods create the most oxysterols, and which methods keep cholesterol oxidation to a minimum? The absolute worst way to cook eggs for your heart is high-temperature frying, especially scrambling. When you crack an egg into a hot pan and scramble it, you are doing several things that maximize cholesterol oxidation. First, you are breaking the yolk and exposing the cholesterol to air, dramatically increasing the surface area of cholesterol that is in contact with oxygen. Second, you are applying high heat directly to that exposed, spread-out cholesterol. Third, you are constantly stirring and folding the egg, continuously bringing new surfaces of cholesterol-rich yolk into contact with both the hot pan surface and the oxygen in the air. And fourth, if you are cooking in vegetable oil or butter at high heat, the fats in those cooking mediums are also oxidizing and contributing additional harmful oxidation products to the mix. The result is that scrambled eggs cooked at high heat contain dramatically higher levels of oxysterols than virtually any other preparation method. Research measuring cholesterol oxidation products in eggs prepared different ways has consistently shown that scrambled and high-heat fried eggs contain the highest concentrations of oxysterols, sometimes several times higher than the same eggs prepared by gentler methods, and it gets worse if you are using certain types of cooking oils. Vegetable oils like soybean oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, and canola oil are high in polyunsaturated fatty acids, which are highly susceptible to oxidation at high temperatures. When these oils break down under heat, they generate a cascade of toxic compounds including aldehydes, lipid peroxides, and free radicals that further accelerate the oxidation of the cholesterol in your eggs. So the combination of scrambling eggs in vegetable oil over high heat is essentially creating a concentrated cocktail of oxysterols and lipid oxidation products that is profoundly damaging to your cardiovascular system with every single bite. And let us not forget about the other ways people make eggs worse for their hearts through what they add to them. Many people scramble their eggs with processed cheese, which itself contains oxidized cholesterol from the high heat processing it undergoes during manufacturing. They add bacon or processed sausage, which are loaded with oxidized fats, sodium, nitrates, and other compounds linked to cardiovascular disease. They cook everything together in a hot pan with butter that has been heated past its smoke point, generating additional harmful oxidation byproducts. The typical Western breakfast scramble of eggs, cheese, bacon, and processed meat cooked at high heat in butter or vegetable oil is essentially a cardiovascular damage delivery system disguised as a morning meal. Now, contrast that with the safest, most heart-protective ways to cook eggs. The number one best method is poaching. When you poach an egg, you gently lower it into simmering water. Not boiling, just simmering, at around 70 to 80 degrees Celsius. Roughly 160 to 175 degrees Fahrenheit. The yolk stays intact, meaning minimal surface area of cholesterol is exposed to oxygen. The cooking temperature is relatively low compared to frying. And most importantly, there is no cooking oil involved whatsoever, eliminating the additional source of lipid oxidation products. Poached eggs have been shown to contain the lowest levels of cholesterol oxidation products of any cooking method. The cholesterol in a poached egg arrives in your digestive system in a form very close to its natural, unoxidized state, meaning your body can handle it through its normal metabolic pathways without the toxic inflammatory cascade that oxysterols trigger. The second best method is soft boiling or hard boiling. When you boil an egg in its shell, the shell acts as a protective barrier against oxygen. The yolk stays intact inside the shell, and while the temperature of boiling water is 100 degrees Celsius, which is higher than poaching, the shell and the surrounding egg white insulate the yolk from the most intense heat and from oxygen exposure. Studies have shown that boiled eggs contain significantly lower levels of oxysterols than scrambled or fried eggs. Soft boiling, where the yolk remains partially runny, is slightly better than hard boiling because the lower final temperature in the yolk means less cholesterol oxidation. But both methods are vastly superior to frying or scrambling. The third acceptable method is gentle, low-heat cooking with stable fats. If you prefer your eggs cooked in a pan, you can minimize cholesterol oxidation by keeping the heat low, using a stable fat like extra virgin olive oil or even a small amount of coconut oil, cooking sunny side up or over easy to keep the yolk as intact as possible, and covering the pan with a lid to steam the top of the egg rather than flipping it. This approach minimizes both the temperature exposure and the oxygen exposure of the cholesterol-rich yolk. It is not as protective as poaching or boiling, but it is dramatically better than high-heat scrambling. Now let me talk about what research says about egg consumption and heart disease risk, because this context is critical for understanding the full picture. When large population studies look at moderate egg consumption, defined as roughly 1 to 3 eggs per day, the results are generally reassuring. Most well-designed studies find no significant association between eating eggs in moderation and increased risk of heart disease in healthy individuals. Some studies even find modest benefits, likely due to the excellent nutrient profile of eggs, which includes high-quality complete protein, choline, which is essential for brain health and liver function, lutein and zeaxanthin, which protect your eyes, B vitamins, selenium, and vitamin D. However, and this is a critical however, many of these studies do not control for how the eggs were prepared. They ask participants how many eggs they eat per week, but do not distinguish between someone who eats poached eggs on whole grain toast and someone who eats eggs scrambled in butter with bacon and cheese on a white flour biscuit. When studies do attempt to account for preparation method and accompanying foods, the picture shifts significantly. The cardiovascular risk tends to concentrate among people who consume eggs prepared at high heat with unhealthy fats and alongside processed meats. Furthermore, there is a subset of the population, estimated at roughly 25 to 30%, who are considered hyper-responders to dietary cholesterol. In these individuals, eating cholesterol-rich foods does significantly raise blood cholesterol levels, unlike the majority of people whose cholesterol levels remain relatively stable. If you are a hyper-responder, egg consumption requires more careful management. You may need to limit your intake to 1 egg per day, or focus exclusively on egg whites. And the preparation method becomes even more critical because the combination of being a hyper-responder and consuming highly oxidized cholesterol from poorly cooked eggs is a particularly dangerous combination for your arteries. How do you know if you are a hyper-responder? The only way to know for certain is to test. Get a baseline cholesterol panel from your doctor, then eat 2 to 3 eggs per day for 4 weeks while keeping the rest of your diet constant. Then get your cholesterol tested again. If your total cholesterol and LDL cholesterol have risen significantly by more than 10 to 15%, you are likely a hyper-responder and should manage your egg intake accordingly. If your numbers stayed stable or changed minimally, you are a normal responder and moderate egg consumption is unlikely to be a problem for your heart, provided you cook them properly. Let me also address some specific myths and misconceptions about eggs and cholesterol that I hear from patients constantly. Myth number 1. Egg whites are always better than whole eggs. This is an oversimplification. Egg whites are pure protein with 0 cholesterol and are an excellent option for anyone who needs to strictly limit cholesterol intake. But the yolk contains the vast majority of the egg's nutritional value, including choline, vitamins A, D, E, K, and B12, iron, zinc, and the antioxidants lutein and zeaxanthin. Throwing away the yolk means throwing away most of the nutrition. For most people, eating the whole egg in moderation prepared properly is nutritionally superior to eating only the whites. Myth number 2. Brown eggs are healthier than white eggs. This is completely false. The color of the eggshell is determined solely by the breed of the chicken and has absolutely nothing to do with the nutritional content, the cholesterol level, or the health impact of the egg. A brown egg and a white egg from similarly raised chickens are nutritionally identical. Myth number 3. Free-range or organic eggs have less cholesterol. The cholesterol content of an egg is relatively consistent regardless of how the chicken was raised. However, free-range and pasture-raised eggs tend to have higher levels of omega-3 fatty acids, more vitamin D, more vitamin E, and more beta-carotene than eggs from conventionally raised chickens. These differences can provide modest additional cardiovascular benefits, but the cholesterol content is essentially the same. The shell color, the farming method, the price tag on the carton, none of these change the fundamental chemistry of what happens to the cholesterol inside that yolk when you expose it to high heat and oxygen. A $12 carton of organic pasture-raised eggs scrambled at high heat in vegetable oil produces the same dangerous oxysterols as a $2 carton of conventional eggs cooked the same way. The cooking method is what matters, not the marketing on the packaging. Now let me give you a clear, practical action plan for eating eggs in a heart-healthy way. First, make poaching or boiling your default preparation method. These methods produce the least cholesterol oxidation and are the safest for your cardiovascular system. Get comfortable with these techniques. Invest in a decent egg poaching pan, or learn the swirling water method. It takes less than 5 minutes. Second, if you do cook eggs in a pan, keep the heat low, use extra virgin olive oil instead of butter or vegetable oil, keep the yolk intact whenever possible, and never cook eggs until they are brown, crispy, or rubbery. Those visual cues of overcooking are also visual cues of intense cholesterol oxidation. Third, Limit your egg intake to 1 to 3 eggs per day if you are a normal cholesterol responder, and 1 egg per day or less if you are a hyper-responder or have existing cardiovascular disease. Work with your doctor to determine what is right for you. Fourth, eliminate or dramatically reduce the processed accompaniments. Drop the bacon, drop the processed sausage, drop the American cheese. Replace them with vegetables, avocado, tomatoes, fresh herbs, and whole grain bread. The company your eggs keep matters enormously for your heart. Fifth, never reheat cooked eggs in a microwave or by refrying them. Reheating already cooked eggs exposes the cholesterol to a second round of heat and oxidation, dramatically increasing oxysterol content. Cook eggs fresh and eat them immediately. Sixth, if you are over 50, get your cholesterol tested regularly and pay attention to both your total cholesterol and your LDL particle count. If your numbers are trending upward, review your egg preparation methods and overall dietary pattern with your doctor before assuming you need to cut eggs out entirely. The fix might be as simple as switching from scrambled to poached. The bottom line is this: eggs are not the enemy. They are an incredibly nutritious, affordable, accessible source of high-quality protein and essential micronutrients. But the way you cook them transforms them from a health food into a cardiovascular hazard. The cholesterol in a raw or properly cooked egg is a normal molecule that your body handles efficiently. The oxidized cholesterol in a high-heat scrambled or fried egg is a toxic compound that inflames your arteries, accelerates plaque formation, and increases your risk of heart attack and stroke. The difference between a heart-healthy egg and a heart-destroying egg is not the egg itself. It is the pan, the heat, and the method you choose to prepare it. I want you to type in the comments how you normally cook your eggs. Scrambled, fried, boiled, poached? Be honest. And if you have been scrambling your eggs at high heat in vegetable oil every single morning, type the word poached as your commitment to making the switch starting tomorrow. Share this video with every egg lover you know, because the egg industry will not tell you about cholesterol oxidation. The restaurants will not tell you. The recipe blogs will not tell you. This is information that can only come from someone who cares more about your health than about selling you breakfast. Subscribe and turn on notifications. I have so much more life-saving information to share about the foods you eat every day and how small changes in preparation can produce enormous changes in your cardiovascular risk. And one more thing before I go. If you eat out at restaurants, be aware that restaurant kitchens almost universally cook eggs at high heat in whatever cooking oil is cheapest, which is usually soybean or canola oil. The scrambled eggs at your favorite breakfast diner are almost certainly loaded with oxysterols. The omelettes at that brunch place are cooked on a screaming hot flat-top grill with industrial vegetable oil. Even the eggs at high-end restaurants are typically cooked at temperatures that maximize cholesterol oxidation because speed is prioritized over health in commercial kitchens. When you eat out, order poached eggs or soft-boiled eggs whenever possible. Request that your eggs be cooked in olive oil at low heat if the restaurant can accommodate that. Or simply save your egg consumption for home, where you have complete control over the preparation method, the cooking temperature, and the type of fat used. Your heart does not care whether your breakfast looks Instagram-worthy. It does not care whether your eggs have perfectly crispy golden brown edges. What your heart cares about is whether the cholesterol molecules arriving in your bloodstream are in their natural, harmless state, or whether they have been transformed by high heat and oxygen into toxic, inflammatory, plaque-promoting oxysterols that will accelerate the destruction of your arteries with every single bite. The choice is yours, and now you have the knowledge to make the right one. I will see you in the next video. Enjoy your eggs. Just cook them right. Your arteries are watching.